So what else you got, bro? What else is going down in your life?
It's starting to pick up hardcore. Last
Yeah.
couple days, we had about a week of rain, and then now the sun's out, so the phone starts ringing. So it's keeping. It's
What
time to
what
start
what
keeping
what
up.
what bug problems are you having like calls on now? Right. What are people calling on?
Right now, the biggest thing is odorous house ants,
Okay.
because my technician, he's green as green can be, and I'm still training him.
That's a tough
Um,
ant.
so he's struggling with odorous house ants, but my thing is I've got to find that happy medium between going out there and coaching and watching and teaching versus you screwed it up, figure it out, because that's the best way to learn. I can't step in every time and rescue him with, oh well, you need to do this, you need to do that. I've got to
Right.
find that happy medium. He does, man. He's a German roach slayer. I
Right.
mean, he's got some reason that clicked, and he's good to go. Um, and the rest of it is no issues. But it's all right now. It's all about odorous house ants.
All right. So we've got a cousin because that's Tapenoma Cecil, correct?
Man, that should be. I don't. I don't
All
ever
right.
study the
All right.
taxonomy names.
Okay. So you got odorous OHA, and we've got over here Tapenoma melacephalum, which is the ghost ant.
Yeah, which we
Same.
don't have.
Right. Same genus. How is it that you found that you're dealing with those ants? Let's talk about that. How are you dealing with them over there?
Uh, well, these little boogers, man, they move their nest daily. So that can, this year, I'm finding more in walls, where in the past 20 years, I may find one or two a year that would be in a wall.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, this year, I'm finding them more and more in walls. So
Interesting.
we're taking plates off and dusting more in the walls and things like that. Um, Here with odorous house, you've got to flip. Man, people love their landscaping silliness and the mulch. You got to have mulch because that's what the Joneses
Right.
do. So we all got to have mulch. We got to have these pretty little stones. So you got to flip it all over. And I don't know what people's affinity for running ivy up the side of their house. I'd like to choke every one of them.
I got it here in the Gables, man. People put this ivy up on the wall. Yeah.
So with odorous house ants here, it's all on the table. They could be anywhere.
Right.
So you just gotta. I mean, you got to be thorough.
Right.
But as a new technician, he was falling into that. Well, I used this and it didn't work. So what do I need to use next? You're thinking about this totally wrong.
Right.
You're focusing on the chemical, and I'm telling you, you probably didn't get the previous one where it needed to be, or
Right.
enough of it, or something to that effect, or whatever. The biggest One of the biggest problems here is when you go in and you eliminate them. You eliminate them because they're good to go for a month, and then you have them show up right at the same time, and of course the customer thinks it's the same ants. Well, you didn't fix. No, what happened is they're moving into the old nests and old holes and old galleries and all this kind of stuff.
Right.
And around here, everybody wants to put taro out on their windowsill.
Right. So they're bringing them in.
Yes. Oh my Lord. And they're like, well, that worked. Well, then why am I here?
Yeah.
If what you did worked, then why are we even having a conversation right now?
Yeah. People get freaked out all the time because I tell them I use bait indoor, but I never put the bait in the windows. We're usually dealing it in the interior of the house where we're finding those nests, like in the kitchen or in islands. They're interior. They're already there. My suspicion is on a lot of homes here in Florida, which I can't prove it, that they're actually getting in just in a lot of places, just like termites get in. They're finding that void in the foundation somewhere. And especially in the inside of the home, they're making nests, I guess, underneath the structure because there's no way to get there. We never see a trail.
Mm-hmm.
We're spraying all of those perimeters and entries. And how come she's got ants in that kitchen and there's never a trail anywhere on the outside near that kitchen window, anywhere.
Slab.
It's the slab, and they're getting in just like termites. And we might start using the same process where we're going to foam void the back of that kitchen wall void with the same thing, like either a premise or a Termidor or something, to get that residual in there somehow, to stop it. It's gotten better. Are you finding that? What is it that you're doing? Walk to me through your. So I'm going to compare, because I've never had to talk to anybody about odorous house ant, how they're actually. I mean, I read all the literature, and I've seen all the comments on Facebook. But what we do here is on every initial, because that ant is so difficult to control and we can't figure out always where it is, and we got so many shrubs and everything, we're using a fipronil application.
If it's a bad
time.
one, see, most of the time we go in and we'll do our, pyrethroid around the perimeter, your normal, just 3-month prevention product,
right?
Put some bait on the outside of that perimeter, crack and crevice inside. Most of the time we get them to 0 and we can maintain it. Now, if we identify it as a bad one, or on the initial inspection, the cells, we know it's bad, where, we may move to fipronil, and maybe a couple different types of granular bait on the outside of that, and move to dusting wall voids.
Right. What are you using for those wall voids? What are you preferring?
For the odorous house ants, most of the time, Tempo.
Okay, so you're using Tempo, and you don't find that they're fragmenting or moving with the Tempo dust?
And that kind of goes into the next subject, is the other big ant that we're having right now that's just exploding even more and more, is fire ants. Now, we've had them for a while here.
Is that a native fire ant, or is that imported? Red imported?
It's red imported.
Red imported, okay.
So, for years and years and years, we've had them in the yard. We treat the whole yard and you're good to go for a year or more. One of the ones we're fighting with right now is where there's nothing in the yard. There's no mounds. There's no nothing. There is some drainage issues. But they've got fire ants inside.
Yep, I've seen that a couple of times.
But there's nothing outside. Nothing. So the Tempo did separate them a little bit and move them around. So we've kind of changed strategies, mostly to bait. But I'll tell you what's, and maybe this is just a local thing here, but there's a builder here locally that's putting up 1 million houses a day. And he's got this design where the brick, you've got normal brick on the bottom,
okay,
up about maybe a foot. And then he puts a brick at an angle going towards the house. And then siding above that. So the first thing us bug geeks think is, oh my gosh, there's a void right here.
Right.
And every single one of those houses, I have the exact, now most of them, I mean, we get them to 0, but we have the same problem. We have issues with OCCs, occasional invaders, spiders, earwigs, the ground beetles, things inside the house, but nothing outside. And I just about guarantee you they're all living in that void behind that decorative brick thing that they're doing. That's their calling.
Right. And did they put any weeping holes or anything, or it's just
well, it's at the corners, their lack of quality building.
Right.
A lot of times I can get in there and get some material back in there. So it depends on the house. They build 30 at a time,
right.
And they're all exactly, they're McMansion type things.
Have you gone there in pre-construction and see how it's being put together?
Yes. And that's what it is. I mean, it's just, you've got your main frame wall, and then you've got that void. And the problem is there's no access to it. There's no purpose for that void. It's just decorative. And it's just causing all kinds of bug issues.
And you can't figure out how to get the product in there without
Well,
messing it up?
it depends on how, was that a Friday house or a Monday house? I mean, if it was a Monday house, I'm not getting in there.
Right.
There's no, I'm not. But if it's a Friday house, I can probably find some places to get some material in there, so it's just been one challenge.
And then the next thing would be the next thing would be maybe on those types of homes, since it's an outer wall, putting some product into the actual, like, I mean, we've done it here where we've had to treat in the past with big-headed ant. It was so big we had to drill holes through the drywall on the inside, and put the dust along the entire wall.
I've actually had to do that on the fire ant one. Most of them we can get everything, we got all the cracks and stuff that we can find, and then maybe take some plates off on the interior side of the wall. Most of the time that gets us to zero. But those are always, if I see that design on the house, the price just jumped. Because
right.
I mean,
because you got to do all that work. Yeah. What I've done is I got away completely because we got so many ants here. I mean, like right now, my guy was I'll deal with that issue that you said about your technician. We've got crazy ant, white-footed ant, big-headed ant. We'll get some fire ant. We've got ghost ant, and we have, white-footed. And yeah, there we go. 6 ants that we deal with on a regular. Sometimes we'll go to a house and they have all 5. That's how bad our ant problems are. So my guy, for the second time in his life, in his career, he ran into a white-footed ant. Now, are you familiar at all with white-footed ant? Because they're really
we don't have them here. So
so here's the funny part about that ant. It tends to go up, and it makes mega colonies, but inside the structure, up to 10 million.
Oh joy!
Right. So he found one once, and he's like, "Oh, it's a crazy ant, but it's walking in rows." And I said, "Send me a picture of that." And he sends me a picture and says, "That ain't a crazy ant. You've got a white-footed ant. You need to look up in that corner of that attic and watch him coming out, and he's going out to feed, and he'll find a plant that usually has aphids or something, and he'll be feeding off those plants, taking the nutrients inside. What we have to do is we got to take a whole roll of liquid gel.
A plant that's touching the house or something they got inside?
The plant is touching the house. The nest is inside. Now, it's funny with this ant because this particular ant will make the trail, hundreds of them. He found a little short one. And I said, just bait the trail. If that's the only trail you find in the house, just bait that whole trail. Literally, we put a whole row of liquid bait. Let them feed because there's millions of ants in there. And I says, go back. You can go back the next day and if you got most of the ants killed or not, or go back in 7 days. And they'll usually bridge and go up on the plant and suck on the honeydew and all that. So we usually will have to spray those and get those honeydew and that. But he treated and he knocked it out. And he said, "Oh, this is a breeze, right?" So he got one call, which talking about how do I rescue my guys. And he says, "Hey, I found, these ants again at this house. So I did what you said. I baited, right? Because it goes back the next week. He's still having ants, but I found them in the pot. So I baited the line and I baited the pot. So it goes back the following week. I still got ants, but they're almost all gone. Okay, that's it. I
Why
give
didn't
them
you just bait it all to begin with?
Well, I give them 3 strikes and you're out, and then I got to get involved.
Yeah, that's
my rule of thumb. If you haven't solved it in 3 shots, you had 3 shots. He says, "No, but they're almost gone. There's no need for you to go." And I says, "No, I got to go." That's my rule. So I go out there and we start looking throughout the whole house. And there's this line from the floor, from the pot going up, but the pot was up against the wall. I look and it says, "What do you see?" There's aphids all over. I mean, aphids and mealybugs all over this plant.
Okay.
You separate the plant from the wall, the pot. Okay.
Yeah.
He says, yeah, I did that. They must have pushed it back. Yeah. But now look at where that trail is going. It's going all the way up in a little hole that big. And you've got 3, 4, 5, 600 ants trailing back and forth. I said, how did you bait this? This is like I did last time. I just put a little roll of bait. You put about that much. No. You don't understand.
On the wall?
You got to do it on the wall. You got no choice with this ant. There's no easy way. You can fipronil this all you want, and it ain't gonna kill them. So we take this, we start out at the bottom of the floor, and we're going up this wall with a row of bait, gel bait. Always get your ladder, and we're gonna take it all the way up there. So we use thickwood because thickwood costs us $2 to refill that thing. If he had to use quantum, I said, bro, that's $30 worth of bait you're gonna use in this house.
Yeah.
So I said, get your ladder, bait it all the way up. He's never seen this before because until now, he's actually never seen a white-footed ant in a year and a half he's been with me. First time. They used to be when I started, it was every other call that I ever got back in 2009 was a white-footed ant problem. They seem to have tapered off. I saw them in West Palm Beach last year, 6 months ago. Big time swarms. I'd never seen that before. I said, oh, they're going to come back. Because, pests do that. You'll have 10 years and then you'll suddenly, something changed in the weather and they're back. So now we start walking around the house. Oh, there's one. Follow that one. Well, these trails will go literally from the ground, go up, go across the entire soffit, and it'll go around the house for 20, 30, 50 feet that you have to trail. That's how big how big that colony inside is based on how long that trail is and how far they're going. And there's like 2 million ants. So I said, you start baiting here, start going up, get your ladder, start going up here, baiting all this all the way across.
Yeah, OHAs will do that too.
We'll go around the back. They got these shrubs now up against the wall. And I said, did you pull the shrub away from the wall to see where the ants are? And we showed up. All these colonies are right there feeding on all the aphids.
Yeah.
So now we bait this whole thing again. And he's a plant. So he wasted about 2 ounces, 3 ounces of bait. He says, bro, that much bait. I was afraid to use that much. And you get mad at me for wasting all that bait. It says, that's how you have to do it. And you got to do it. And there's nothing you can do. And then I said, now you're going to go back and we're going to spray those shrubs down with Samari. Got to get all that aphids down and we got to contaminate all that sooty mold because now all that honeydew becomes bait when you spray it with Samari. And I said, spray it all down and then come back on Monday and see what you find. He just went back on Monday. He says, bro, they're all gone. But that could be 10 million in an attic. So that's what I let him. I know what he's dealing with. I want him to go because if I bailed him out, he would have thought it was easy. I intentionally let him go through that because it wasn't a threat to the customer. The customer wasn't complaining. They were all outside. It wasn't a deal. I let him go through it and says, okay, you haven't done it. Let me go in. Now he knows when he sees that next time how far he has to search. But we found 3 nests. We found one on the front, one on the side, and one on the back.
Yeah.
And the reason I go with all non-repellents is because we have to use so many times, we have to use a combination of bait and liquid. And we have to put gel up against the house because of our species that I would, if I used a pyrethroid, we just make a mess. And a pyrethroid is never going to solve that problem. And by the way, neither is fipronil. I've done the complete fipronil, killed the entire thing, go back the next day, the trail's back out again.
Yeah.
And here's what's funny. There's no trophallaxis with this ant.
What?
There ain't none.
Really?
This is the weird part because people think, why are you using bait? Bait won't work because there's no trophallaxis. I said, what you don't understand is I just killed all of their workers. All that brood's going to starve. So that's how I kill the colony.
Even with the queen, there's no trophallaxis?
It is if it gets to her.
Yeah.
But most of the time it's not going to happen with the immatures. It's not going to take it to the larvae.
Interesting.
And so the way that's why I got to put, so I'll put that out and you will see 2 million. I got photos of 2 million ants
That's
along.
also why you need a higher volume of bait.
And I found that out just in 2009. The first study was published in 2010. University of Florida published, which said gel bait is the number one. And I still have to this day people arguing with me, no, fipronil. I said, it'll still never work. Go back and you'll see that trail. If we've had, and then the funny part is it will go up to a second story and then start coming out through the bathroom vents. And people are like, I got ants in the bathroom in the second story. That's usually white-footed. So you have to go all the way and figure out how high you can get to bait that. And then it's going in through the vent sometimes. And sometimes I've had them come, they'll actually trail on the outside, go down the stack and get into the bathroom through the stack.
So you're not having staining on the walls when you're just putting thickwood on?
They will completely eat everything. You will go back the next day and it's completely cleaned. There's nothing there. Nothing, like a bone.
I'm staying in Tennessee, man.
Yeah,
I ain't
bro.
coming to Florida.
So that's one of the things I said. I let them. So when a roach failure happens and they haven't controlled it in 3 shots, he missed something. He will miss something. And it's usually, when the biggest roach problems we have, it isn't the heavy infestations. It's when it's a really light infestation that he decides I'm not going to put the bait everywhere I'm supposed to.
Yep.
And I'm not going to follow the entire protocol because it's such a light infestation and it always bites them in the butt where the customer's calling a month later still, I still got roaches, but it wasn't that much. And I said, you didn't follow the protocol. So those are the issues, bro. I'd be interested if you moved away. Like what granular bait have you found works for OHA? Because I found that for Ghost Ant here, the cousin, no granular bait works. Only liquid bait.
My main, now I'm hardcore in the wintertime during treatments to every house gets banned. Every house. Especially, dead of winter. People look at me cross-eyed, but I'll tell you, I did something when I worked for another company. I had so much trouble with OHAs, and they had a protocol where they do a pyrethroid for 3 months, and they do Termidor for 3 months, and then they do a different, and then back 3 and 3. So you ended up 6 months out of the year using Termidor. Well, the first problem I absolutely hated is when we were in those 2-3 month groups of Termidor, the spiders went bonkers, and we got calls for spiders. I hated Termidor, hated it. So and I got to thinking. So I tried something, and I tracked everything, and most people don't believe me, but I swear to you it's true. That entire winter, I banned every stinking house in the dead of winter. That next season, I had 0 callbacks for odorous house ants.
Interesting.
0. Now that's I've only hit that 0 one time. Obviously that's a freak number, but so from then on, instead of focusing on, because the company that I was with at the time, the guys were like, oh, well, Niban, that's the bee's knees. And, and they were getting lazy and relying on the product. So I went the opposite way, and, Niban in the wintertime. Now, once you get it here in Tennessee, once you get into the dead of summer and the ants are established, especially if you get a new start in the middle of the season,
right?
You're not good. I don't care how much Niban or thickwood or anything you throw at it, you ain't gonna fix it in a bad one, because it's already established. You have to go.
You have to work at it
and play the numbers game, and then once you get it to a decent level, you can start maintaining with bait. They're around here with fipronil and odorous house ants. When it works, it's great,
and when it doesn't,
but when it doesn't, it gets ugly really quick.
Yeah. And what gel bait are you using inside? Like to find, if you find those nests, do you find gel bait is working well or not?
I do not bait inside, period.
Okay.
Now, the reason is I have found that when we bait inside for ants, except for Pharaoh.
Okay.
I mean, you got to bait for those, no matter how you cut it. Not Pharaoh. Why is my brain not working this morning? Maybe this. Anyway,
It'll come to you.
We'll figure that out later. Anyway, there's one here you have to bait for no matter what. That's the only thing you can do. Blah blah blah. Anyway, but when you bait in for, especially for odorous house ants, or sometimes we have pavement ants or LBAs, little black ants.
Okay.
Do you have those there?
Not really. I mean, they're little black ants have been spotted, but not really.
We don't see them that much. But if you put bait, especially liquid, inside, it's a nightmare, and they continue to show up season after season in that same
because
area.
you're drawing them in that case. It's none of the ants we have that issue. Once we basically deal with them outside, like I said, we'll use that fipronil initial. I'm trying to get away from fipronil because I hate it. I don't like you. I've never liked using it. It just doesn't go with our brand. We're going with that. We're doing now a testing with Samari. So we tested it at the end of the season. We had great results. Then we moved to Barracor, which is the only pyrethroid I use in the winter. But again, our winters are like 85 degrees. It just the temperature drops to like 60 sometimes, and that's it. Yeah, 60. Yeah, I know, right? And so we have a less pressure. We're using a reduced risk product with a lower amount of pyrethroid in it, so we don't cause, because we will make a mess with these ants here in Florida. Yeah. And then we do the pyrethroid. Now we're going to switch over to Samari again in the summer, and seeing how that goes this summer, especially because our biggest, I mean, if I get literally out of all the ant calls I get right now, way over 50% of those calls are ghost ant. Wow. And that's how rampant it is. And then when we got a house that has a crawl space with ghost ant, and that, you got dirt floor, they're making their nests all over there, and we're not crawling in a crawl space to treat for it. So we're thinking about now dusting it or fogging those crawl spaces with a product that we could fog there that wouldn't cause repellency, because these things fragment like you would not believe. They will fragment. They will move.
Are they native where you are?
They're not native. They're all the ant species that we have. Most people don't know this. Florida has the largest fauna of ants in the country. We've got 200 species of ants. 50 are exotic. All of these ants, none of them are native. They're all invasive exotic species. And the reason they like it is for a reason everybody likes Miami. It's warm, it's humid. They got everything they need. We've got 2 port of calls. We got Fort Lauderdale. We got 2 international airports. Yeah. I mean, we've got 80% of the perishable goods that come into the country will come in through Florida. I think something like 50% of the flowers come in through Florida. We get literally more than 1 insect a month now, new in Florida. Most of it affects agriculture. This is not so many ants, but yeah, man, it's tough down here when you're testing all this and you're like trying to create a protocol for 5 different species of ants. What's actually going to work? And it's like, it's fun for me because I enjoy it. The techs don't like it. They don't like testing. They want to know a sure thing. They don't want to take the risk and get screamed at. Me, I'm like, I can temper it.
I love testing, but when I do testing, like I'm getting ready to we talked about final feed. I've got 2 customers on the ready to go, but I do it for free.
Right.
Tell them, look,
we do the same thing.
If it doesn't work, hey, it was free.
Right.
Tough noogies.
Let me tell you something. It works, bro. The final feed down here, we've got a lot of species of mosquitoes, and it works just about for every species.
I've got to, I'm sure it does. And I've looked at everything, and I'm excited about it. I got to get my feet wet before I charge.
Have you used Max 4 Max Force Fly spot bait?
Yes.
Okay. It goes on the same way. It just goes on plants.
Yeah.
Spot here, take 2 steps, wet that whole spot, take another 2 steps.
Well, see, we really don't have mosquitoes right now.
Right.
I'd say within a week or two, where they'll start kicking pretty hard. The one of my customers previously had told, just because of where he is and what he's got going on, there's no way I could do your traditional mister blower treatment there. So I've thought of him, as the perfect one, because when I'm treating his house, I'm getting lit up, and they usually don't like me.
Right.
I've got too much pyrethroid running through my blood at this point for them to munch on me. But they just tear me up on that one, so I can't wait. I'm itching to get out there and try it.
Yeah. The other thing that we're going to be trying for very difficult accounts, we got waterfront property. We've got properties that have waterfront and sewer systems, storm drains, which the cities have to maintain for mosquito. It gets very complicated very quickly. We're going to try to incorporate the into care together with the final feed.
Now we've
been using final feed now for over 4 years.
Now, which one's, because there's 2 bucket type ones.
Right.
One's just the glue board and some nasty water. And
right.
The other one's
that's the OV catch, which is from Catchmaster. They make the final feed.
I've got 2 of those to incorporate with the final feed trial, so I can actually monitor.
Right, and what the thought behind that is, especially with like and I'll probably have to ask Stan on this one again. When I talk to him, the 80s albopictus. If you just catch one of those, you stop 1,000 from breeding. That's the whole mentality. You're not going to catch that many. I tried it. I didn't catch that many, but I didn't catch, the others either, which we have, which is the Culex and the Anaphyles. So
maybe your water wasn't funky enough.
Oh man, it was funky. Believe me, it was funky. I made sure it was funky. It was like, whoa, there's what's going on in there, man.